Okay, I'm recording my predictions for the GOP primary debate for August 23rd. And so let's start with Asa Hutchinson. Pretty sure he was the first one to announce, and he immediately tried to distinguish himself from Trump and he's probably going to attack Trump on like moral character. I think he might try and stay away from talking about the actual criminal allegations against him and the cases against him. But I definitely think he's going to want to make a distinction between himself and Trump on a moral level. He's going to have typical Republican talking points that you could have gotten out of Mitt Romney's campaign. Probably low taxes, less regulation, no real details. My guess. And I know that he's going to try and break out. I think that he wants to try and tell a joke or like to do something that's like somewhat unique, but I have a feeling like whatever he tries is going to come off awkward and weird, and he's definitely on the older end of the spectrum of people on that stage, and especially the people that are going to get the most amount of attention. And so he is going to look out of place, and the connection between him and Trump, I think, that will be made is that they're both on the older end of the spectrum. All right, Doug Burgum. So I think he will try not to really attack anyone specifically. I think that he's really going to focus on his private sector experience, and I think he's going to try and really uh, uh, like connect with the Republicans on what they like about Trump as like an outsider who's like coming into politics and doing it differently. I think that's what he wants to play up, somewhat with his private sector experience. But he's also going to put in there that he was governor and his some of his successes in governor. I think that'll undercut his first message and kind of give you more the impression of, oh, know what, never mind. This is a guy who was successful in business, but is basically a normal politician now. I think that he'll probably most likely get questions like on the economy and in that area, and he'll probably answer them in what is like, I guess, satisfactory way. But my guess is that he'll start to sound pretty repetitive, and he won't really talk that much. So I don't expect him to have any type of back and forth with anyone else on the dais. Honestly, him and Asa can try and mix it up and create some heat between them, but I don't even see why they would or how that would happen. But okay, next up is Mike Pence. I don't think that he'll go out of his way to attack Trump, but I definitely think that the moderators are going to ask him a question about Trump, and it's probably about the January 6th criminal allegations and the case against him. And I think that Pence is going to try and stay away from being very clear about pointing the finger at Trump, but I think he's going to sort of gently point the finger at Trump and sort of make like a gentle accusation without actually saying out loud, which we'll see. I don't think that'll work very well for him. He reminds me of sort of the position Marco Rubio was in after the debates where Christie and Donald Trump were sort of berating him in 2015. People had a lot of high hopes for him, but then after that, all of the primary looked at him in a completely different light, and he lost like all of his steam. I think that's where Pence is starting out. Basically, when he answers questions, he's going to answer about he's going to use his successes in the Trump-Pence administration to be able to say that he's had successes in these areas. So the people who hate Trump are going to connect him to Trump and say, I don't like him because he's connected to Trump. And the people who like Trump are going to think of him as someone who betrayed Trump. So there's really no winning for him. I don't see how he collects any of the people who are persuadable. Although Pence, if you look at his previous debates, he is a good technical debater. He's very good at staying on message. He's clearly good at preparation, and he is sharp. Although he's not what I would call quick-witted. I'd call like sort of sharp and well prepared, and he's good at staying on message. So if he chooses the right messages, I could see him at least sort of making some kind of an impact. But I doubt that he'll have any type of like lines that are worthy of like putting in clips, other than clips that will be played next to when Trump is turning himself in about Trump. But that's it. I don't see Mike Pence having much of an impact other than that. All right, so next up is Tim Scott. I think Tim Scott is a good orator, and I think he'll have somewhat of a compelling message, but I think that he's sort of will deliver it in an almost sort of robotic kind of uninspired way. And I think that he'll generally, have the same talking points that you could have expected from whoever the Republican would be. If you guessed what the talking points would be 5 years ago, I think that these are about the same talking points that you'll get from Tim Scott. I think that he's probably going to be the person who's most focused on talking about how bad Joe Biden is. And I think Scott will likely have the most consistent message about Joe Biden's failings, especially on the economy. I think he's also probably the most likely one to bring up the way that Joe Biden responded to the fires in Hawaii, and sort of undercut Joe Biden's message as like an empathetic figure, which who the hell knows why anyone thinks he's empathetic, because that is some bullshit. I don't think anyone is likely to attack him, which means he's not going to get the time from their attack, and he's not going to get the time to respond. And I don't think he's really going to attack anyone else. So my guess is he'll have like a medium amount of time talking and no real heated exchanges. And if he is asked about Trump, my guess is that he'll sort of give a waffling sort of like support of Trump, sort of like a default support of Trump, but in a waffling tone. And I don't expect him to also have many clips the day after the debate, but we'll see. I think he can have pretty inspiring messages and like personal anecdotes, I think. So we'll see if he brings anything like that out, and if it like comes off as like authentic, because I feel like sometimes his delivery holds back his message, but we'll see. So next up is Nikki Haley. How I would like summarize her entire sort of mindset when going into this is like she is like long-term politically minded. I think she's been sort of angling for this position for many, many, many years. Governor, like leading up to being governor, and then ambassador, and then the second she stepped down from ambassador, she's been basically waiting for this moment the whole time. So I think she has like long-term strategy to make it to eventually become president in her mind. And I think that governs a lot of her actions, very calculated actions to get there. I think that of everybody, she's going to come in the hardest against Joe Biden and Harris. I think she's going to bring Harris in probably over and over again for a couple reasons. One of which is she can bring Harris up, and without actually mentioning it, she doesn't have to say I'm a woman and I'm the only woman on the stage. She could just attack Harris, and people will already make that connection, and not saying it and doing something that reminds someone of it is much better than if she like came out and said it like she was pretending to be Hillary Clinton or some nonsense. So I think that she's gonna, and the other reason to do it is it attacking Harris underscores how terrible how like senile Joe Biden is, and so I think that it's attacking Harris is like an automatic attack on Joe Biden also anyway. I think she's the one who is probably the most likely to be looking for opportunities to create heated debates, especially with Vivek. I think that that's the person she thinks that she's gonna have the best opportunity to create like a moment attacking, and I think she's specifically going to probably launch an attack on him, on a policy attack on what he said about the sort of military aid to Israel, where he was saying that he wanted to basically position Israel in a way with like having Abraham Accords 2.0, where we're no longer having to give so much U.S. military aid to Israel, and instead they can rely on allies in the neighborhood and create sort of like an anti-Iran, Russia, sort of Syria sort of alliance, and she should absolutely bring up Saudi Arabia, and the fact that Joe Biden is the reason why Saudi Arabia was about to sign an agreement with Israel and officially recognize Israel. Joe Biden is the reason why they haven't done it. They were about to do it at the end of Trump's term, and if Trump had another term, they would have done it very quickly after that. Joe Biden is the one standing in the way of it. I think that she would be smart to bring up that specifically and say that she would, I think that she should bring it up, because if she doesn't, I think that Vivek, as a response to her attack, he should bring it up if she doesn't. But even if she brings it up, it sort of falls in line with his attack anyway. So she's also going to attack him about abolishing the FBI. I think that she's going to basically say that no serious person would talk about getting rid of the FBI, especially when we have such like issues with like possible terrorism and how many terrorist plots they've unfoiled and stuff. And I think that she's going to just attack him from being about being like naive about the FBI's role in protecting the American people, and then also his Taiwan proposal. And he's basically said that the U.S. under his leadership would protect Taiwan until we had semiconductor independence, and after that he hasn't exactly explicitly said, but the way that he portrays it basically says that like China will have to deal, like China and Taiwan can like deal with their issues between the two of them, and not going to put American citizens between the two of them to protect Taiwan against China if we have semiconductor independence. And Nikki Haley is going to call him out on that, specifically because having protecting Taiwan allows us to box in China if it came to that. And I think she may or may not go into some detail, but I doubt that she's going to go into enough detail where it'll actually give Vivek a difficult time responding. He's responded to this criticism many times because he's brought it up many times. So he'll have a very detailed response on all of these. He's talked about abolishing the FBI many times. He's gone into quite decent detail about how to do it in ways that... So these attacks from Nikki Haley, I suspect they'll actually be a good thing for Vivek, because it'll actually just give him more time and opportunities to explain his position. And I don't think any of these attacks specifically would land. I think that she's going to probably try and use these as an opportunity to bolster her foreign policy credentials, especially in comparison with everyone else on the dais. But I think that it's actually going to come across most likely as Vivek actually having a pretty decent handle, and a pretty decent handle on foreign policy in general, and actually ideas of where to lead, rather than to just say we should have the status quo, which is basically what Nikki Haley is going to be saying. I think she might be the best position to be vice president. She obviously isn't polling that great right now, and I mean, it's not impossible that she could somehow get in the lead and become the nominee, but it's probably pretty unlikely. But again, like what I started with, she's the one I think who's the most long-term politically minded, like strategically thinking. And so I could definitely see her thinking that her path is become governor, governor to ambassador, ambassador to vice president to president. And I think that she's going to definitely, I think, attack Vivek, because I don't think that she thinks that Vivek would have much of a chance anyway. But I think that for anyone else, like if like possibly under Trump she could be vice president, Ron DeSantis, or who knows, I don't know, Tim Scott or Christie or something, like she would fill in the gaps that they, like all of them basically have, like Trump, Christie, DeSantis, Scott. None of them have that much foreign policy experience. Trump obviously was president, so it's a little bit of a different story, but I think all of them, she fills a gap for them that could be useful, and I think that she might have that in the back of her mind as not like goal number one, but as sort of like a secondary goal. In general, I think that her presence is going to seem pretty rehearsed. I think that she is going to be the second most aggressive, but probably the most rehearsed. So from her, go to Christie, who I think will be the most rehearsed. Sorry, not the most rehearsed, the most aggressive. I think that he's basically thinking that his brand is firebrand, and I think that he's been embracing that brand leading up to this. I think that when he gets on the stage, that's what he's going to be thinking. That's what the bar is, the expectation for him. So if he's like somewhat combative, but not that much, since the expectation is that he'll be like the firebrand, the message, the like how people will take that away is, oh, I guess he wasn't that aggressive. So he's actually set the bar really high, and my guess is he's going to try and meet or exceed that bar. I think that he's going to really look to attack Trump for sure. I think he's going to try and attack DeSantis, and I think he's going to try and attack Vivek. I think all of those attacks sort of serve different purposes and are sort of coming from different places, but I think that he is going to definitely be the one who's most likely to interrupt everybody, and he's going to have the most aggressive appearance. I think that he knows that when he attacks like Trump, or when he attacks anyone in that like fiery way, those are the type of clips that are most likely to get played on like CNN or MSNBC, and they love that. They can't encourage that enough. They want to give all the attention possible to that, especially when he's attacking Trump. And so he knows that going into this. And so although the audience and CNN and MSNBC aren't necessarily the primary voters, when he does the firebrand stuff and those clips get replayed on CNN and MSNBC, then you have all these podcasts like Ben Shapiro or some other, Megyn Kelly is going to like take the clip of CNN playing and the Christie like clip and talking about the Christie clip. So it's going to be CNN talks about Christie, and then all these podcasters in the conservative spaces talk about them talking about Christie. So I think in a roundabout way, even though the people who are amplifying it are the liberal side, I think eventually he gets his message to the people that he's looking to get it to. And so I think he's conscious of that, and I think he's going to try and play into that. I think when it comes to Trump, he'll generally attack Trump for I'm sure he's going to call him a coward for not being at the debate, and probably try and loop in any other way he can attribute him to being a coward, and he's going to call him a criminal, and I'm sure that he's going to try to get as many laugh lines as he can and just attack him in ways that are like sort of jovial but harsh, especially because he's not going to be there to defend himself, and because I think Christie is probably the only one on that stage who's going to be willing to attack Trump, and there are several people on that stage who I think have an interest in defending Trump, and so I think Christie actually wants to attack Trump, solicit someone's defense of Trump, that way he can counterattack that person, and that sort of does two things. One, it gives him the opportunity to be aggressive towards somebody else and create a heated exchange on there. And two, it also takes up more time, gives him more time to speak, gives him more of a presence on the stage. So I think that for those reasons, he'll definitely attack Trump in those ways. We'll see if he has any other interesting attacks on him. I think when it comes to DeSantis, he's also definitely going to attack DeSantis. I think he's going to attack him and also try and make fun of him for not being like personable. And I think that he's going to attack him for not being able to beat Trump. I don't think he's really going to attack DeSantis mostly on his record. I think he's really going to attack DeSantis for just not being the type of person who can really interact with voters, get his message across to voters, and take on Trump. And I think that he's also probably is going to talk about his inability to run a campaign, talk about how the leaked memo came out, and like how this just shows that he's not able to run a solid campaign. I think that DeSantis probably, I don't know how much to the extent that DeSantis will counterattack, but I think DeSantis has been getting attacked nonstop by Trump and Trump supporters and stuff. So I think that anybody who attacks DeSantis, he might have a lot of frustration, and so his counterattacks, I don't know how sharp they will be, but I would suspect you'll be able to see the frustration in him when he is doing that. He's a very smart guy, so his counterattacks might be sharp and well worded and sting, but I think either way you'll be able to get the frustration out of him, which might be what Chris Christie's looking for anyway. Okay, and then it comes to Vivek. So when it comes to Chris Christie attacking Vivek, I think that he's going to have at least one of an overlapping criticisms or attacks that Nikki Haley will have, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Chris Christie and Nikki Haley sort of like double team attacking Vivek on this one specific issue, which would be like closing down the FBI. And I think that Chris Christie will definitely say that this is like someone who's like naive and doesn't know what he's doing. He's gonna like, he's just not a serious person. If it really reminds me of like thinking about how this could play out, reminds me of Chris Christie and Rand Paul back in 2015. I remember there was specifically like a time when Rand Paul was talking. I believe he was talking about the Fourth Amendment, and he was talking about how there were the government was collecting our data, and like there needed to be like investigations, and like there needed to be like clear obstructions to the government being able to access our data or something to that effect. And Chris Christie didn't really come out on any type of principle ground. It just basically called him naive and stupid for thinking that they could do that, and basically saying that having principles when it comes to the Fourth Amendment would basically just jeopardize the ability for law enforcement to do their job. And I think that he's going to take that same type of very condescending attitude to Vivek. So I wonder if Vivek has, my guess is him or his team has seen that debate and seen how Chris Christie reacted in like a really condescending manner to Rand Paul, which FYI, Rand Paul has been proven pretty damn right about his accusations in that debate, and people, like he was absolutely on point with some of his criticisms, and what Chris Christie was saying is basically that he wasn't going to talk about principle, and he was just saying that it's naive to even think about it that way, and law enforcement needs this power to be able to do their jobs. And again, I think that's the what he's going to do with Vivek. I think he might, because Vivek has also talked about freezing lines, like ending the Ukrainian war by freezing lines of control, and Russia can hold on to the parts of Ukraine that they've already taken. And there's like several other pieces to the deal, but basically like Russia would have to give up its alliance with China, but they can have the part of Ukraine that they have already taken, and then we'll stop funding Ukraine and the war stops. And I think that there's a likelihood that Chris Christie might sort of pull out the old Russia playbook where he calls Vivek like a Putin puppet. Like, I think Vivek's going to use that puppet line, I think. And at that point, I could see Chris Christie saying something like, oh, you're going to be Putin's puppet and give him part of Russia. Something like that. I also think there's a chance that he could call him a flip-flopper. And I think that if Chris Christie does attack Vivek for being a flip-flopper, like you see this a lot when people are talking to Vivek, and usually Vivek's in like these long-form podcasts, or even like if he's on a news clip, it's usually like a few minutes, and they'll say like, oh, you flip-flopped on this, and then he has like the opportunity to like explain why what he said before was sort of taken out of context or whatever. Usually has very good explanations for like why either he hasn't, or like either way he explains himself usually pretty well. But I think if Chris Christie decides to attack him on this, my guess is that he'll name several different things, like one after the other, maybe like 4 or 5 different things. And the problem for Vivek in that scenario would be that you only get, I think, like 30 seconds to respond to somebody's attack on you. And so if you only have 30 seconds, there's no way you're going to be able to go into detail about every single one of those things. So Chris Christie might try the attack of like too many things to respond to. Chris Christie's an experienced debater, and I think that he might have this in mind when he does it. So I'd like to see if he does like the rapid fire accusations, especially when it comes to flip-flopping, and not give Vivek an opportunity to really clarify what he's talking about. I think he's definitely going to attack Biden on the economy and on several other things. I would not be surprised if he didn't. If he brought up Maui also. I think that he knows that attacking Trump and the other Republicans is the way to get the most TV time and clips played. But I think he also knows that in order to endear himself to the primary audience, he has to show that not just can he be a bulldog and attack, but can he attack Biden. So I think that he's going to spend most of his time probably attacking conservative, like Republicans, but I think he's going to try and tailor it off into attacking Biden, like towards the end. So my guess is like it'd be like a 90-10 strategy, like 90% of the time attack Republicans and tailor it like at the end, try and always bring it back to Biden, just to like make sure that people understand, oh, like this firebrand mentality is going to be targeted at Biden, and I can't attack him. So that's what I think. Chris Christie. Very interested to see how that goes. Very interested to see if he has like lines ready to go for each one of them. Vivek, DeSantis, and Trump. I'm sure he has some stuff on Trump that he hasn't used up or he's thought about, but it should be interesting. Okay, next up is Vivek Ramaswamy. So I'm actually thinking about volunteering for Vivek. I like his message so far, and I'm very interested to see. I'm like by no means completely sold on anyone, but I'm very interested to see where he goes with this. And at the very least, I like to, even if he doesn't ever become president or in a cabinet position or anything like that, I think that some of what he's talking about limiting the administrative state's like strength and position over like creating and administering law is a really important message. And I think it's something that even if Vivek doesn't end up in a political position, that the things that he is talking about are things that I hope Trump is taking note of, or whoever is working with Trump is going to take note of, because I think that it's a message of, it's not just a message, it's an agenda of things that are in line with what Trump would want to do. And I think that is meaningful. So I think that he comes off very naturally and conversationally, which is, I think he naturally comes off that way. He actually did like a couple, like he did some stand-up apparently. He's done a lot of things. He's done music. He's had a lot of different experiences that give him like a lot of opportunities to like pull stuff from. And he just comes off very naturally already. But he also has been doing like tons of podcasts and interviews like all over the place. And so that, I think, is the preparation that he's been using. And I think that that's going to just make him even more natural. I think he's really the first one to understand this new podcast environment, this new media market. Obama was the first one to really figure out how to use social media, and I think Vivek might be the first one to really understand how to utilize the new podcast media market. I think he's going to be attacked more than anyone else. I think 2 weeks ago, I think most people would think that Ron DeSantis would be the one who'd be attacked more than anyone else. But now I think it seems more and more clear that Vivek is sort of going to be everyone's target. DeSantis, I think, is going to be attacking him from above, in a pole position above him. And I think, Christie and Nikki Haley and, there are some other options for even other people to attack Vivek. So I think he's going to be attacked more than anyone. And I think that actually is going to, as long as he handles those attacks well, which I think there's a good chance he could, but especially if he gets attacked a lot, he's not going to have really that much of an opportunity to explain himself and sort of put those attacks in context. So I think that if he is able to handle those attacks well and diffuse them, that it'll really give the impression that he is the front runner, right? Without Trump on the stage and with everyone attacking him, it's going to really inflate his importance among all of these other people. First of all, he's sharing center stage with DeSantis. There's 8 people on the stage, and he is going to be sharing center stage with Ron DeSantis. I think that positioning is important, and if everyone is attacking him, then that is going to bolster the impression that he is the center of the debate. Also, it gives him an opportunity to misstep, slip, fall, make a mistake. So we'll see. It puts a lot of pressure on him, but it definitely gives him a lot of opportunity to look important and to talk. He's going to have more talk time because he's going to have more. Every time someone attacks him, he gets 30 seconds to respond. So he's going to respond more than anyone. My guess is he'll definitely have the most talk time. When it comes to how he deals with somebody attacking him, he has a really great smile, a very good, what I would call defensive smile. So when someone attacks him, he he smiles, maybe gives a chuckle, maybe not necessarily, but he's got a great smile. He knows how to use it in a way where, first off, he smiles so it doesn't look like he's mad or he took it personally or bad. When someone hears something negative about him, the first thing that they see when they look at him is a smile, which is a good impression to leave in the viewer's mouth, a good taste to leave in their mouths when they're first seeing okay, how's he responding? Oh, well, he's smiling, so that's a good start. Also, it gives him the opportunity to the 1-2 beats, boom, now I can respond. It gives him a second and an opportunity to think about what he's going to say and how to respond. And the response that he gives doesn't come off as reflexive. A lot of times when somebody gets attacked, they can't wait to respond, oh, you say this, but you did this. You're a terrible person. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. See, oh, you say this and you did this. Listen, the response is very different. You smile, take a beat. All of a sudden, when you're responding, you're not looking defensive, and it's coming. It just automatically puts you in a better place, and that's his natural tendency. Kamala, her natural tendency when she gets uncomfortable is a super weird laugh, which is terrible politically. He is the opposite. He has a great natural instinct when somebody attacks him and he's uncomfortable. He has a great smile, and it doesn't come off as defensive, but it's the perfect natural defensive technique. So we'll see how he uses that and how well it comes off, but I think it'll come off really well. I think that he's also going to come off as the most hopeful. I think that he has the most forward-looking message. I think that he's the person who has is going to show the most leadership skills in what he's telling the American people he's trying to achieve, how he's going to achieve it. And I think that he's also the one who talks like he's running for an executive position. A lot of other people are going to speak about what they would like to achieve as if they're running for like a legislative position. Like, these are the bills I'd like to pass. These are the things that I would like to, have like enshrined into law. But he's going to talk a lot about what he's going to do as the executive, as the guy who's running for the executive position. And he's going to talk about being a CEO, and like he's going to be able to analogize stuff in a way that I think simplifies what would normally be more complicated for the viewers, as far as what the executive is capable of doing and what they're not capable of doing. And I think that it allows him to create contrast with Trump while actually giving Trump tons of credit. And I think that this is going to be like the main opportunity for Vivek to be able to actually overtake Trump, is give Trump lots of credit, but explain why you can execute better. And so I think that he's going to come off as very hopeful, very genuinely positive. And I think that the day after the debate, there will be a lot of Obama comparisons. I think in a positive way. Like, I think that a lot of like CNN, MSNBC, I think that they're going to play clips of Vivek, and they're going to say, that reminds me of Obama. That I bet that that'll be a common talking point the day after the debate. But we'll see. And if that is a common talking point on MSNBC and CNN, all these places, that will be a powerful thing going forward, because that will stick in people's mind, their audience, CNN's audience, MSNBC's audience. If those people are saying, oh, he reminds me of Obama, very hopeful, very this, and I think they would feel more comfortable saying that because they don't think he has a chance of winning the nomination. But let's say he does win the nomination, that comment of comparing him to Obama is something that will stick in the audience members' minds. No matter how many times later on they say he's evil, that comparison of, oh, he's like Obama, will be like a very valuable little like memory capsule for that audience, that he can sort of that will give Vivek an opportunity to hopefully sway voters who he might not even think they're willing that they're swayable in the beginning. I think he's also the person who gives the most detailed answers. And I think that one of the main attacks that's going to be on him is that he doesn't have like a ton of experience or any experience in politics or government. And I think the amount of detail that he's going to put in his answers is going to far exceed the detail that other people are going to say, not about what he has done, but what about what he will do, which I think is going to be very impressive for people. And I think that the attacks on his credibility in a position like this, because he doesn't have experience, I think those are going to be completely undermined by the fact that he's talking in such specific, detailed terms. So I think that just to date, I've already heard him give so many details that he'll be able to recite in the debate, and that'll bolster his credentials there. Also, when it comes to Trump, I think that a lot of people are saying that Vivek's like basically running for vice president for like under Trump. Vivek said many times that he doesn't think he makes a good number two. I don't think Vivek would take the number two position under Trump, mostly because I think that he respects Trump a lot, but I don't think he necessarily thinks that if he did take the position with Trump, I don't think that he thinks that they would work well together and that would end well. So I doubt he would even take a position, but I'm it'd be interesting to see. But the point is that he's actually the best person at defending Trump. Like, all of the accusations against Trump, he has 4 criminal indictments, and nobody is as good as Vivek is at defending Trump in a very detailed manner. He can do it from a detailed manner, and he can also do it from like 50,000 feet. And so I think that his ability to defend Trump like that First of all, I think Trump appreciates that. I think Trump supporters really appreciate that. But I think most people are missing what he's really doing, which is he's showing the general audience, the Republican audience, but general audiences, but definitely the Republican primary voters, that these are very difficult things to deal with when Democrats come after a Republican like this. They control so many institutions. You have so many prosecutors, and it's very difficult to explain your defenses. And Vivek's gonna say, I'm the best at it. I'm the best at defending Trump. And if I was the nominee, this is how I would defend myself. I'm better at defending these type of accusations for Trump, and I would be the best to defend these accusations if they were against me. And so I think it's actually showcasing his skills. And I think that's really what he's doing, is showing his ability. First of all, ingratiating himself to the Trump voters and showing his appreciation. I think it's genuine appreciation for Trump and the sacrifices Trump's made. But also, and more importantly, showing that his ability to fight back with details in a calm manner that makes the type of information accessible to like the everyday audience is very useful if he ever gets the nomination and he has to defend himself. I think that when it comes to like attacking, counterattacking, I think he's going to have the most positive message. I don't think that he's going to want to spend a ton of time attacking people. I think that there's a line that he uses a lot, the super PAC puppet, and I think that line works pretty much against anyone on that stage. I mean, not like Burgum, I guess, but I don't see any way that they really get in any conflict. But pretty much anyone else on that stage, you can use that line, like this person is a super PAC puppet and, you know, they're doing what their super PAC tells them. Like that line could pretty much work on anyone. He could use it in a variety of different ways. And so I expect that he'll use some variation of that to defend himself. But I also think that he'll try and I think that I'm sure he's gotten some research on all of them. And my guess is if he does do any actual counterattacking with any specific allegations against anyone, my guess is it'll be like a short, like a very quick sniper shot, and then immediately change to like an attack on like Biden or something like that. I don't think that he wants to spend much time attacking anybody, you know, and he can like plant a little seed of like an accusation without like going into detail or making it like a whole thing. I doubt that he'll end a sentence on an attack. I think it'll be like attack, comma, you know, blah, 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 Biden's the worst, something like that. And so we'll see, but that's sort of how I see Vivek's standing going into this. Okay, and then last but not least is Ron DeSantis. So I think Ron DeSantis probably has the most to lose of anybody. Most of the other candidates are just, you know, polling like 1 or 2% anyway, and so they have nowhere to go but up. But Ron DeSantis, at one point a few months ago, he was actually in the lead, like ahead of Trump. So he's been declining, and then he sort of flattened out, but it's sort of starting to go down. It's like it was flattening out, and then it's sort of now going down a little slower, but still going down. So I think that if he missteps on this debate, he could easily lose basically all of his support. I think that the people who've put a lot of effort, time, and money into his campaign have been really disappointed, and I think the primary voters who've been sort of like behind him love what he did in Florida, but are getting tired of what he's doing in this campaign. The leaked memo, so there, in case if you didn't know, there was a memo that was leaked about, it was from a super PAC, and they put it on the internet, and you know, it was only supposed to be for the DeSantis campaign to utilize like a strategy memo, but it got leaked, and that creates severe problems for DeSantis, because anything he does that's in line with that memo falls right in line with the attack that Vivek always makes, that you're just a super PAC puppet. Here's your super PAC telling you what to do. You do exactly what they told you to do. They give you the money. They call the shots. So anything he does that's in line with that memo is going to lead right into an attack. And so that's a huge problem for him on one end. The other problem with that memo leaking is that it also falls in line with another attack on Ron DeSantis, which is that he's not running a tight ship. His campaign is a mess. They every other day there's some leak or some problem or some this or some that. It's not a well-run organization, and having a leak like this is a huge problem. So this creates a huge problem for him. I think that he's likely to attack Vivek on his inexperience and naivety, being naive, I guess. I think that he's likely to attack him on that. But again, that was in the memo to attack him, and so if he does attack him, it falls right in line, super PAC puppet sort of rebuttal. And so if he does attack Vivek, he'll have to be immediately ready for that line. And any attack that he tries on Vivek will automatically be undermined by that. And once Vivek says it once, or anyone else says it once, then throughout the debate, everything he says is being judged off that basis, I think that he's great at answering questions in detail, and he's great at talking about the successes that he's had in Florida, and he's very good on policy. He understands the all of the ins and outs of it, and so I think that if he's given policy questions, I think that it'll give him an opportunity to shine. It might make people who liked him in the first place fall back in love with him, because he's going to look good if he's asked certain types of questions. I think he's very knowledgeable, and like I said, he's going to be able to answer questions in a way that's very credible. I think that he will try and defend Trump, but not really. My guess is that, again, because of the memo said that he should try and defend Trump. So now if he tries to defend Trump, it'll look inauthentic, which is the sort of the worst of both worlds. So you can't defend Trump, you can't attack Trump, he's sort of boxed in. But I think that he'll most likely try and do some type of soft, half-hearted defense of Trump, and then immediately just go to attacking Biden. That's what I think is going to be his more or less the only thing that isn't going to get him called on for being a super PAC puppet is by attacking Biden. That's the only thing. So I think a lot of his go-to responses are going to be attack Biden, bring up Maui, economy, the border. I think he's going to try and turn everything into a Biden attack to try and get the heat off of himself and be able to. And there's plenty of places to attack Biden because he's such a terrible president. So there's lots of opportunities. You don't have to keep going back to the same attack, and so each time you get attacked by somebody, you could turn it into another attack on Biden. Another thing the memo said was to be more personable, and I think that he probably would have tried to do this anyway, memo or not, but I think he will try and do this. Again, it's going to be undermined by the memo. The authenticity of it is going to be undermined, but I'm assuming he'll bring up his family at some point and try and come off as a family guy, personable, something like that. But it's going to come off as probably rehearsed, because it probably will be rehearsed, and it'll come off as inauthentic because the people who are giving him, supporting him with millions of dollars said to do it. Even if that's not why he's doing it, they said to do it, he's doing it. It's going to come off as inauthentic. I think that he'll get attacked probably second most. I think Vivek will get attacked the most, and I think that he'll get attacked the second most. And so I think he'll have the second most talk time. I think he'll respond to a lot of the attacks on him with attacks on Biden. But I think that he'll be attacked by definitely Christie, and I don't know. I guess I could see Nikki Haley or Scott attacking him or something like that. I don't really know, but mostly it's going to be Christie, I guess. Um, I think that he'll talk a lot about his Florida accomplishments instead of talking about, like, so he'll be talking about past and current things rather than future things. And I think that that will be a mistake, but my guess is that that's what he will do. I think that he'll talk a lot about, this is what we did in Florida, this is what we did in Florida, this is what we did in Florida, and it's not going to be looking forward to the it's not going to be looking to the future. It's not going to be laying out ground like what we're going to do if you elect me to represent you. Okay, so that's Ron DeSantis. Now, general thoughts. Trump's turning himself in to Georgia the day after the debate, probably the morning after the debate. So if anyone has a big moment, it's immediately going to be undermined because it's not going to get wide attention because Trump's a genius when it comes to this type of stuff. If anyone has a big moment, it's immediately going to get undermined by Trump being arrested or Trump, like turning himself in. And I think that it will also provide an opportunity to play clips from the debate of people attacking Trump, specifically like Christie probably, and I'm sure that other people's like clips will get played, like maybe Vivek or Ron's clip about defending Trump. But the pundits are going to be talking a lot about Trump and this in Georgia indictment, and so Trump's undermining any success that anyone has by turning himself in the morning after. Smart for him. People talk about how history doesn't repeat. I forget whose quote this is, but history doesn't necessarily repeat, but it does rhyme. And I think that history rhyming is very difficult to see in future tense. You could see like, oh, history will rhyme this way or that way, and like looking back, you can say, oh, of course, well, like why didn't we see that? The connections are obvious with how it rhymes. So two different ways that I think history could rhyme. Trump versus the field. Field goes down. Nobody can beat Trump. He just keeps collecting electoral or the votes in the primary, and nobody can take down the 800-pound gorilla. Trump keeps getting like 50% of the vote, and then everyone else keeps sharing the other 50%, something like that. Or could it rhyme in a different way? Businessman with good TV instincts who everybody doubts jumps to lead in the polls and then, controls the primary from then. Like, that would be like Vivek sort of coming out of nowhere. I mean, Vivek is constantly making analogies between himself and Trump in 2015. Is that how history could rhyme? We'll see. I cannot wait to find out.